This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. During his presidential campaign, Obama promised to couples earning less than $250,000 a year, you will not see any of your taxes increase one single dime. Well, many people say he's already broken that pledge. Here to discuss it with us now is Grover Norquist. Mr. Norquist is president of Americans for Tax Reform. That's a group that crusades for lower taxes and less government. He's also on the board of directors of the National Rifle Association and the American Conservative Union. On financial matters, he knows what he's talking about. He's an economist. Welcome back to Newsmax, Grover.
Good to be with you.
Has Obama broken his tax pledge?
Yes, 16 days into his presidency, 16 days. He signed a bill that raised taxes on tobacco, and of course the only person in the United States of America who smokes cigarettes and earns more than $250,000 is named Barack Obama. So first tax increase he signed hit Americans of all income levels.
All right, the full brunt of the Democrats' health care reform plan hasn't been felt yet and won't be for a few years. But when the health insurance purchase mandate takes effect, there are severe IRS penalties for noncompliance. Grover, how much will that hurt somebody who doesn't buy a policy?
Well, it's going to cost hundreds and eventually thousands of dollars a year. It's a tax designed to force you to buy health insurance, but it is a tax. It'll largely be put on low-income people, since higher-income Americans already have health insurance.
Another item high on Obama's agenda is cap and trade. Republicans refer to it as a national energy tax, and Senator Jim Inhofe says it would amount to the biggest tax increase in American history. How do you see it?
Well, there are a number of different versions of it, but all of them have the same thesis. They are taxing the energy that you and I use and subsidizing, giving corporate welfare to industries that don't yet exist or don't produce energy at real prices. So it's a massive tax increase on the cost of the energy you use, generated by coal or natural gas or oil, electricity, and then subsidies to more expensive energy. So your energy costs are going up. Whether you end up using windmills or a normal power plant, your energy costs will go up because of these taxes by thousands of dollars a year.
Well, in Obama's own words, electricity prices would necessarily skyrocket.
That's the goal. It's not the unfortunate side effect of his policy. The goal of his policy is to make most energy, coal-generated energy in the United States, too expensive, so that for similarly high prices, you will use solar or wind energy that's too expensive. You don't use it now because it's too expensive.
Same thing with gasoline too, right, Grover?
The goal is to move the price of gasoline up so high that people will drive less and be forced onto subways.
You urge candidates to commit to the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. Please explain what that is.
Sure. The Taxpayer Protection Pledge was something I created in 1985. It's a simple statement for a candidate or incumbent to sign. It says, I promise not to raise taxes, period. Or for a governor, I promise to veto any effort to raise taxes. Today, over 1,000 state legislators have taken the pledge. Many of the candidates for governor this election cycle have taken the pledge. And of course, about 95% of all the Republicans running for the House and Senate for the national government have taken the pledge and kept it. We have one Democrat and about in the Senate and 3 in the House who've taken the pledge as well.
Newt Gingrich is considering a run for president. Would you welcome a Newt Gingrich candidacy?
Yes, Speaker Gingrich has always taken the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. When he ran for the House, he kept it. He fought for lower taxes at all levels. And the other thing that Gingrich does is he's a movement builder, a party builder, and so whether he was a backbencher, Speaker of the House, or a candidate for president, his goal has always been to advance liberty, and I think it's very helpful. It's very Reagan-esque.
Runaway government spending and debt into the multiple trillions are huge issues with conservatives. You have a new plan to cut spending, which would involve permanent congressional committees and full staffs, subpoena power, and they would write legislation to cut spending. You've shared that idea with Republican leaders in the House and Senate. Is anyone willing to run with this?
It's getting good response. It's a good, new, old idea. It's a new idea because it doesn't exist at present. But we took this idea from something that really did exist in the real world in the 1940s. It was set up by Harry Byrd, conservative Democrat senator from the state of Virginia, and it was a committee, not an appropriations committee which spends money, but the committee to reduce unnecessary federal expenditures. They would subpoena bureaucrats in, ask them what they were doing, ask them how much they cost, ask them why what they did should be done at all. They cut over $30 billion in today's dollars out of the budget by closing down the Works Project Administration, the Civilian Conservation Corps, a number of those New Deal spending programs that probably never made sense, but they certainly had ceased to make sense. So to have a federal committee, a congressional committee, whose job it is not to spend more, but to spend less, would be a revolutionary idea, and it's getting good traction around the country.
Get any good feedback from any Democrats on this?
I've shared it with a number of Democrats who've expressed mild interest. The challenge is the Democratic leadership. There may be one or two Democrats in Congress who like the idea. The Democratic leadership goes the other way.
Okay. We know the important role the Tea Party has played in endorsing candidates and spotlighting reckless spending and burgeoning debt. If Republicans win back the House, as many predict, what role will the Tea Party play in spending cuts?
I think the Tea Party movement is best understood as millions of Americans who have not been involved in politics for most of their adult lives, but in the last 2 years got scared straight by Obama's debt, trillions in higher taxes, higher debt, higher spending, and trillions more being threatened. So these are people who are minding their own business, not paying attention to politics, and all of a sudden they're terrified at the amount of spending going on. They're a new addition to the modern center-right, modern Reagan coalition, and because they're involved in politics, if the Republicans come back into power, they will be a different party than they were in the past, because there are these new troops that have arrived who have one thing on their mind: spend less.
If Democrats allow the Bush tax cuts to expire at the end of this year, what will that do to the tax burden on the middle class, and what impact will it have on the economy?
It's about $1 trillion tax increase on the American people over the next decade. It would be the largest tax increase in American history, and it would take every marginal tax rate and increase it. The 10% rate would go to 15, the 35% rate would go to almost 40. The tax on businesses on capital gains would be very high. When these tax cuts went in 2003, the economy and the stock market strengthened. As soon as people realized that those tax increases were going to come in January of 2011, the stock market began its decline.
There are brilliant political minds out there like Charles Krauthammer who say a national sales tax known as a value-added tax, or VAT, is a foregone conclusion. It's said Democrats like that one because the tax can be easily disguised in the overall price of whatever people are buying. How insidiously dangerous is a VAT?
A VAT is a very bad idea. It is true that it is what the Democrats plan to do. It is Obama's goal, is to get a value-added tax on the American economy. The European model that Obama and the Democrats have been moving the United States away from American exceptionalism towards the European social welfare model, that has a VAT on average in Europe of 20%. In the United States, we have no VAT. If we were to adopt a value-added tax, as Europe has, at 20%, and it'd probably start smaller and then move its way up to where Europe is, 20%, your salary would be worth 20% less because you could buy less with it because of the taxes. Your life savings would be worth 20% less. Your pension would be worth 20% less because anything you bought would have a $20% value-added tax attached to it. It would be very bad for the American economy.
Grover Norquist, as always, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.